Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Word for Kids. I'm Jamie, and I'm guiding you through the books of 1st and 2nd Samuel in a series of 20 episodes. Last time, we learned about Eli's sons, Hophni and Phinehas, who dishonored God with the way they treated sacrifices and selfishly kept the best part for themselves. In contrast, Samuel grew up honoring the Lord and became well respected among the people. One night, as Samuel and Eli were sleeping, a man of God spoke to Samuel. But Samuel was confused and thought it was Eli calling to him. After some back and forth, Eli finally realized it was the Lord speaking to Samuel, and from there, Samuel was able to receive the word of the Lord. The man of God told Samuel that what was spoken about Eli's sons would come true. They would die on the same day, and the Lord would raise for himself a faithful priest. From then on, the people regarded Samuel as a prophet, and the Lord continued to reveal himself to Samuel. And that's where we left off last time. Let's find out what happens next. The Israelites went to battle against one of their biggest enemies, the Philistines. The Philistines won the battle and killed about 4,000 Israelites. The Israelites thought that they had lost the battle because the ark of the Lord was not with them. So they brought it back from Shiloh to where they were camped, and when the ark arrived, all Israel raised such a great shout that the ground shook. When the Philistines heard the shout of the Israelites and learned that the ark of the Lord had come to camp, they were afraid. They remembered all the plagues that had come upon the Egyptians at the hands of the Lord. But the Philistines said to each other, "Be strong, be men, or you will be subject to the Hebrews, as they have been to you. Be men and fight." So they did fight, and the Philistines defeated the Israelites again, this time killing 30,000 soldiers. The ark of God was captured, and Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, died, just as the Lord had told both Eli and Samuel that it would happen. That same day, a Benjamite, this was just an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin, ran from the battle line to Shiloh with his clothes torn and dust on his head. This showed that he was grieving, that things were very bad, and when he told the people of the town what happened, the whole town sent up a cry. Eli was 98 years old, and his eyes had failed him. He was sitting on his chair by the side of the road, and when he heard the outcry, he asked, "What is the meaning of this uproar?" The man told Eli, "Israel fled before the Philistines, and the army has suffered heavy losses. Your sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God has been captured." When Eli heard that the ark had been captured, he fell backward in his chair by the side of the gate. He broke his neck and died. Now his daughter-in-law, who was the wife of Phinehas, was pregnant, and it was almost time for her to deliver the baby. When she heard the news that the ark of God had been captured, and that both her husband and father had died, she went into labor and gave birth, but was overcome by her labor pains. She too was dying, but before she passed away, she told the woman attending her to name her newborn son Ichabod, saying, "The glory has departed from Israel, for the ark of God has been captured." The name Ichabod means no glory. Once the Philistines had the ark of God, they took it to their city called Ashdod and put the ark beside their god Dagon in Dagon's temple. But when the people of Ashdod arose early in the morning, there was Dagon fallen on his face on the ground before the ark of the Lord. They took Dagon and put him back in his place. But the following morning there he was again, fallen on his face on the ground before the ark of the Lord, with his head and hands broken off, and laid on the ground at the threshold. The Lord's hand was heavy on the people of Ashdod. Let's pause right there for today's word of the day.
Hello, it's me again, Eugene the Turtle, here with a word of the... Well, it's not really a word, it's more of a phrase. The hand of God. That means God directly interacts to change an event or situation. The hand of God.
So the Lord's hand was against Ashdod. He brought devastation on them and afflicted them with tumors. When the people saw what was happening, they said, "The ark of the God of Israel must not stay here with us, because his hand is heavy on us." So the Philistine rulers decided to move the ark to Gath. But guess what happened when they moved the ark to Gath? That's right, the Lord's hand was against that city too. throwing the people into a great panic and afflicting the people with tumors. Next, the ark was to go to Ekron. But as the ark was entering the city, the people of Ekron spoke out. They gathered the rulers of the Philistines and said, "Send the ark of the God of Israel away. Let it go back to its own place, or it'll kill us and our people." Death had filled their city with panic as well. God's hand was heavy on it, and those who did not die were afflicted with tumors. The outcry of the city went up to heaven. And that's where our story ends for today. Now it's time for the verse to remember. Today's verse is 1 Samuel 2, verse 2. There is no one holy like the Lord. There is no one besides you. There is no rock like our God. One more time. There is no one holy like the Lord. There is no one besides you. There is no rock like our God. 1 Samuel 2:2. Today's story really shows us the power of God. We learned what it means for the Lord's hand to be at work against his enemies. And you do not want to be an enemy of the true God. Just as in the book of Exodus, we learned about how God's hand brought plagues on the Egyptians who would not free his people. The same thing was happening here to the Philistines. Remember last year we learned about the Philistines bringing Samson to Dagon's temple when the Lord returned his strength and he pushed on the pillars to tear down the temple? The Philistines were right to be scared when they learned the ark of the Lord was in the Israelite camp. And we saw what happened when they tried to take it away from the Israelites. The same God of those Old Testament stories is the God we serve today, and he's able to fight our battles with us. We may not be going against a big Philistine army, but we all have difficult things we have to go up against in life. The Lord's hand is still as powerful now as it was then, and he still works in the world today. That's all we have for this episode. I can't wait to see you again soon for another episode of The Word for Kids.